2 convincing wins for England, without a lot of big names as well, and Tuchel wouldn't confirm whether he's going to bring those big names back. But in terms of England's depth right now, how good is it? Is there any areas of concern?
Areas of concern, I think, if you look at every single major tournament, there's always that one player historically, when way back when David Beckham, broke his metatarsal, then we had like Wayne Rooney. We've always had that big hopes on one player. I think Harry Kane is that player. If he was to get injured, who's then to come in for him? Ollie Watkins get injured, he gets sent home. Ivan Toney's not in the squad. Liam Delap's injured. So there is an area of concern there, but I do think it's all about team selection. I thought it was quite interesting, Harry Kane's interview. I don't know if many people saw that. He was talking a lot about the next 2 games and about the players that could potentially come back in. He was quite mindful of those players because, you look at likes of Jude Bellingham, Jack Grealish, Phil Foden, and I think Thomas Tuchel is that manager that he's not afraid to make difficult decisions. I'm not going to lie, I'm not a massive Thomas Tuchel fan, just putting it out there. But do I want us to win the World Cup? Absolutely. That's the reality, don't we all? We always want to win the World Cup every time England gets there. There's a reason why we haven't won since 1966. We always think we're going to win, and it's the hope that kills you. But I do think, some of these conversations he's having after the game about the fans, kind of unnecessary for me. But I think he can handle the pressure of being the England manager. I don't think he cares what anyone thinks. And as we've seen, playing Morgan Rogers, I like him a lot. But he's not having a great year at Villa. But you can see, he seems like Morgan Rogers has not missed a game under Thomas Tuchel. Same as Anthony Gordon. So he maybe will make those difficult decisions. But do I think that Jack Grealish should have been selected? 100%. Phil Foden, yes. I know people are saying, Jude Bellingham, he's been injured. Well, so has Saka. But he pulled him back in. So for me...
Kane missed the first game with injury.
Exactly. So I do think there's an underlying issue there with Jude Bellingham. I love Jude. But I do think, sometimes you have to block out the outside noise. Jude Bellingham is one of the best players in the world. I believe he's England's best player. And I think that if we have any hopes of winning the World Cup, that team has to be built around players like Jude Bellingham and Declan Rice.
Tuchel, you said he backs himself, he's not scared to make big decisions, but if the World Cup was tomorrow, would Jude Bellingham be in?
Has to be. Has to be. Non-negotiable. I mean, we always think we're the England manager every time we get to a tournament. I do it with England Lionesses as well. You're like, I think this player should play, that player should play. We all have an opinion, and that's what makes it so great, that we all have different opinions. But I think, you look at this team, and the fact that last year, even at major tournaments, they're like, we have to leave out a Jude Bellingham. That, to me, if Jude Bellingham was Italian or Spanish, he would be the first name down on the team sheet. But we've always had a problem in England where we love to build people up and knock them back down. Look all the way back to Joe Colton. For me, one of the most technically gifted players. He's a good friend of mine, but he's a top man, and he was a top player. But we never really know how to handle talent in England. There's always these stories about Jude Bellingham and his family and all that. People don't really know the reality. If he wants to kick a water bottle in frustration, should he do that? Who are we to judge? So on one hand, you're like, players don't show enough, passion. And then when they show passion, it's like, it's too much. So there's a lot of outside noise about Jude Bellingham, and I don't like it because you don't know him. No, everyone's making these assumptions. His teammates don't like him. You don't know that. And I think if you listen to what the teammates say about him, they know that he is a top player.
In one sense, you've got how you like the honesty of the manager to say, no, he's not picked because it's my choice. But he could have also defended him and said, well, he has been injured. Right. So we're leaving him out. Which one would you prefer?
Yes, well, exactly.
The player would prefer to be protected, whereas I suppose in the media and the fans like the honesty. So I suppose it's quite a hard situation for Tuchel to be in that sense, but that's what he's chosen.
You've got to play the game a little bit, Tom. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? This is Jude Bellingham, one of the most iconic England players. He's got adverts, he's major sponsorship deals, he's got Hey Jude songs, you know what I mean? People, it's like the modern day, not modern day David Beckham, but he's sponsored by everybody. And I love it. And I just think sometimes, he has to be a little bit smarter. You have to play the game a little bit. He has to recognise when he leaves a player out like Jude Bellingham, look at what's happened. Everybody's speculating. And like you say, they can have conversations behind closed doors, but what you maybe say to the media is that he's been injured and I'll pick him for the next squad. No one then will be questioning anything. Whereas there's all these little whispers, and it probably don't make Jude feel good. He's our best player. That is, for me, non-negotiable, And the fact that there's always that outside noise about him, I don't like it.
Well, he could be back in a few months, of course. Big decisions to come. But let's speak to football correspondent Rob Dorsett, who was at the game last night, and he's still in the Latvian capital. Riga. Rob, right, good morning to you. Big decisions for Tuchel, definitely. Do you expect him to bring the likes of, I mean, Jude Bellingham we're talking about specifically there, but not just him. Do you think some of those other big names will be back in the next squad?
I loved listening to Leanne Sanderson there, by the way. Absolutely spot on. I couldn't agree with her more. And she's just summed up the debate that's been happening amongst all of the England supporters out here in Riga, all of the England supporters at Wembley, at Wales on Thursday night last week as well. It's on everybody's lips. It's the discussed issue for Thomas Tuchel right now. He's not even part of this squad, and yet Jude Bellingham is dominating the England proceedings right now, and the fact that Thomas Tuchel decided to leave him out. I think he has to recall him next month. I think he absolutely has to. If he doesn't, then the narrative that Leanne's referring to there will just go on and on and on. And look, I was the one who asked Thomas Tuchel when he named his squad and Jude Bellingham wasn't in it. I asked him directly, is there a problem between you and Jude Bellingham? And he laughed it off. He said, no, categorically, there is no problem. And yet, exactly as Leanne Sanderson says, why would you not bring him in then? Why would you not include him in the squad? OK, you said that's because you wanted to keep the squad together. It had done so well in the previous round of matches. And I understand that. I understand the loyalty to the players that have done very, very well. But he also acknowledged, Thomas Tuchel, that Jude Bellingham is a special player. You're right, does Phil Foden come under that category? I think a lot depends on how Phil Foden continues to perform over the next few weeks. I think if he carries on as he is doing at the moment for Manchester City, he's very hard to ignore. Cole Palmer, it looks like, won't be fit enough to have played many minutes, if any, before England meet up again in 26 days' time. So we see what happens with him. But, Leanne, going back to what you're talking about there, the messaging from Thomas Tuchel I find absolutely fascinating. He's an incredibly intelligent man. The psychology he uses with his players is very, very specific. Look at the fact he spent all this week talking up Marcus Rashford, said he could be one of the world's best players. And yet he didn't pick him. He put Anthony Gordon on the left wing and Marcus Rashford came off the bench late. Look at the fact that he's talked all along about how much he loves Jack Grealish. He's never picked him in one of his squads. What do you make of that? Is that trying to motivate the players? Is it trying to put a rocket up the backside of Jude Bellingham? Is it effective? What are your thoughts? I mean, you must have had that from managers yourself in the past.
Yeah, I think he's trying to stamp down his authority, to be honest. Like, when you look at, I've played for managers like this before, where some managers don't like a player to be bigger than them. And it's like, I'm the manager, I'm making these decisions, and that's what we're going to go with. And I think he can handle the pressure. But I think when you look at that interview we did about Jude Bellingham, and he spoke about what his mum had to say, recently come out and said he realised he used the wrong language and those types of things. We all make mistakes, but you are the England manager. When you say stuff like that, you have to realise the magnitude of it. So this will be an ongoing thing. And like you say, the narrative will continue to be that way. You know, someone like Phil Foden, I love Phil Foden, naturally gifted, technically amazing player, but in an England shirt, he hasn't really done it. So for me, I think he's had a lot of opportunity. Maybe there needs to be a manager that makes big decisions at major tournaments. Maybe that's why we haven't won. Maybe the chemistry needs to be better. But I have played for coaches that, for me, it's like, I'm the manager, it's my way or the highway, and this is what I'm going to do. And I think Thomas Tuchel, no doubt he does that, because coming out talking about Marcus Rashford, you know, I've said it many times on the show before, like, Marcus Rashford goes to Barcelona, gets this dream deal when he's playing not well at all. You know, regardless of whether he was playing at Man United or not, he wasn't performing well. Gets this unbelievable move, and good luck to him, and he's done well. But why does he get selected for England, but someone like Jack Grealish doesn't? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I think, Rob, as well, another thing to just kind of...
Look, I think that's a really good point. And I think... Go on, Tom.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what we tend to do in this country as fans and media as well, when it comes to football, we always do try to find negatives even when there's positives, don't we? We do. 6 wins in 6 in the group without a goal conceded. It would be very easy to say, this is brilliant, everything's great, we're on track for the World Cup, there's no problems whatsoever. But then you hear people say, yeah, but the opposition wasn't that good, so in that case, it's 6 wins, no goals conceded, doesn't even matter. It does matter, doesn't it, Rob?
Yeah, it does matter. And I think what you have to realise is that Thomas Tuchel, when he took the job on the 1st of January, told everybody he's got 6 international camps to try and gel his squad, build a philosophy, get the players playing as he wants them to play, get them to a place where they're a squad, a team, able to win the World Cup. And the strange thing is, all of these games we're talking about now, all of the group games that England will play at the World Cup will mean nothing in the long-term history of English football. Thomas Tuchel will be judged on probably 2, maybe 3 matches in the knockout stages of the World Cup next summer. That's how his legacy will be set. And I think all of these games are a building block for Thomas Tuchel to try and get that mentality across, get the players playing as he wants to. I think we've seen signs of that in the last 3 matches, in actual fact. England have won the last 3 matches 13-0 on aggregate, and it's felt a lot more like the sort of mantra that Thomas Tuchel has been talking about is a Premier League side. He wants them to play like a Premier League side, always playing forward, playing through the thirds, getting the ball forward more quickly, getting the ball to the dangerous players. I've seen him throw his arms up on the side of the pitch when England plays sideways or backwards. He's trying to stamp that out. And we've seen much more of the way Thomas Tuchel wants to play in the last 3 matches, albeit against not the best opposition, not the sort of opposition that would challenge England. But what I think we saw last night here in Latvia was England coping much, much better with a low block. Teams that come to try and defend against England and cause England problems, I think, you know, we saw that they cope with that an awful lot better. We're having our photo taken here. Hello? Hello? Are you okay?
I want something.
I'm on the TV actually at the moment, but...
Oh, really?
Yeah. Quickly
I'm
then.
from Riga. I live in Ireland, but I'm home to...
Nice to meet you. I'll ask you if you've got an opinion on Jude Bellingham in a minute, if you're not careful.
Fans everywhere.
Sorry
Rob,
about that, guys.
Understandable.
That's what happens in live TV, I guess. But listen, Leanne, the point is he's trying to build something, Thomas Tuchel, and I think the interesting thing is what he has learned from this, and clearly he's got some players that have come to the fore as a result. Anthony Gordon has gone from squad player, as far as I'm concerned, to potential starter ahead of Marcus Rashford on the left wing. He's found Elliot Anderson. England have been looking for a holding midfield player for some time. Elliot Anderson looks to the manor born. Morgan Rogers is ahead of Morgan Gibbs-White. He's ahead of Eberici Eze, it feels like, at the moment, in that number 10 role, albeit with Bellingham and Foden and Palmer to come back in probably at some point. John Stones has played some important minutes for England. I think he goes back in almost as guaranteed first choice if he can stay fit. So all of that sort of stuff is what Jude Bellingham is what Thomas Tuchel has learned from these matches so far. But it instantly switches now to who's going to be on the plane, who can perform in the next 8 months to make Thomas Tuchel think they're worthy of a spot on the plane. And Leanne, again, I wanted to ask you, you've been to 2 World Cups, you know exactly what it's like. It must have been very strange in that England dressing room last night. Harry Kane gave a congratulatory speech, a rousing speech by the sound of things, saying to the players, brilliant, we've got there, well done guys. And yet you will look at Eze, you look at Jared Bowen, you look at Ruben Loftus-Cheek sitting there, you look at James Trafford sitting there, who's not played yet for Thomas Tuchel, and they must be thinking, well, yeah, this is great, am I going to be on the plane? Am I going to get my dream to go to the World Cup? So what's that like from a player's perspective?
Yeah,
You've got there, you've had this incredible achievement. The question remains about whether you're going to be in the squad or not, though.
That's what it's always like when you play for England, unless you're one of the favourites, that, you know, you don't have to always look over your shoulder, and that's the reality. But I think that's why I'm saying I think these players that I mentioned, Foden, Grealish, and Jude Bellingham, should have been selected based upon you're not going to play everybody, are you? You know, you bring players. It was a bit anticlimactic. I like the fact they went over to the fans, you know, after the game. And you're right, there's a lot of players in that dressing room that will be thinking, am I going to be? And you're right, there's a lot of players. You know, you got the likes of Adam Wharton as well, who's arguably been one of the best midfielders in the Premier League, is not even there. Ivan Toney. There's a lot of but this is what I'm saying, he's gonna have to make difficult decisions, and maybe previously, under Sir Gareth Southgate, he hasn't made those decisions in order for the better for the team. I was that type of maverick type of player, big glitz and glamour. I would have 11 centre forwards out there. That's why I'm not the England manager. But at the same time, I want those flair type of players in there. I think Anthony Gordon should be playing over Marcus Rashford at this moment in time. I don't think that's a difficult decision, to be honest. Yeah, he's done all right at Barcelona, but what about previously? So, I don't know, we have to trust in Thomas Tuchel. You're right, you know, we can't ask for more than 6 wins, 6 games, you know, goal difference is unbelievable. And I think if this was a few years ago, we've gone to major tournaments and really struggled against really poor opposition. So we have to be positive. We've just qualified for a World Cup, and it's almost like we're sitting here like we haven't.
Well, actually, there's been loads of messages coming in on WhatsApp,
let me ask you very
about
briefly,
this.
though, because this
Go on, Rob, you carry on.
I'm just going to say...
You carry on.
4 more pedigree, Leanne. 4 more pedigree. Because what you're talking about is players like Marcus Rashford, Jude Bellingham have huge pedigree, even if they're not in the best form right now. Anthony Gordon, great form right now, playing really, really well. Which do you go for? Which should Thomas Tuchel go for?
I mean, I wouldn't even be putting Jude Bellingham in the same breath as Marcus Rashford at this moment in time. But I do think you have to pick the players that are in form. And that's the reality. I think sometimes, as an England player, it happened to me in my career. I was playing at my best, and then I would get benched because someone else, they wanted to play. And that's the reality. Every footballer will tell you the same thing. It's not always how good you are, if your face fits, if a manager likes you. Just ask Jordan Henderson.
Yeah, he's back in, of course. Rob, there's so many messages coming in, and they're kind of saying that England might be getting a little bit carried away, saying, I mean, there was one message, it's gone now, from Michelle, who said England have the best squad in the world, but they won't win the World Cup. And it does seem like the messages we're getting in general, saying that we, as England fans, don't think we're going to win the World Cup. So I was going to ask, are we getting ahead of ourselves? It actually seems like the fans aren't.
No, I think, look, there's a reality. The England fans last night were brilliant in their humour that they were chanting towards the manager. They followed this team through thick and thin. They got an absolute drowning last night, and yet they were still there in full voice right at the end, celebrating with the players that England had made it to another major final. Look, I think today you have to remind yourself that England hadn't always been in this position. We haven't had it as good as this in the past. Take yourself back to 2008. It was only 8 tournaments ago under Steve McLaren, the Wally with the brolly, when we didn't qualify for Euro 2008. The fact that we qualify comfortably now makes it feel different. The fact that recently we've made 2 European Championship finals consecutively back-to-back makes it feel different. The fact when we go to World Cups we've made it to semi-finals and quarter-finals in the last 2 World Cups feels different. I think we'll look back at this time under Gareth Southgate and Thomas Tuchel and probably think this was a golden era for the men's team, and yet they haven't got over the line. That's why the FA appointed Thomas Tuchel. They thought he was the man who could do it. He's won the Bundesliga, he's won Ligue 1 twice, he's won the Champions League and the Club World Cup with Chelsea. He's a winner. He's the man who can finally get England over the line. I think there's still scepticism from England supporters, understandably, because we've had so much hurt for so long. But I think you have to remind yourself of where England are right now. They're in a good place. They've qualified at a canter, and they will go to North America next summer as one of the favourites. What happens between now and then will make us believe whether they can back that up or not.
Well, let's hope they do back it up and we're all celebrating in the summer. Rob, thank you.
Thanks, Rob.